When Nevada's casino billionaire with a 50,000-acre ranch advertises for a bride, he receives a letter from a desperate young woman claiming to be an orphan. But she's actually the daughter he abandoned 20 years ago. When her mother was just a cocktail waitress, he refused to acknowledge. She came for revenge and recognition. He needs an heir for his empire, but neither expects the DNA test that will shatter everything, or the forbidden love that blooms before the truth destroys them both. Hit that like button and subscribe to discover if love can survive when your bride is your own flesh and blood. Billionaire rancher's mail-order bride is his secret daughter and he abandoned 20 years ago. Vincent Castellano stood on the balcony of his penthouse office 30 floors above the Las Vegas Strip, watching the desert sun paint his empire in shades of gold and shadow. At 55, he owned 6 casinos, a cattle ranch that sprawled across half of northern Nevada, and enough political influence to make senators return his calls at midnight. But as he watched families stream through his casino doors below, he felt the hollow ache of a legacy with no one to inherit it. The advertisement had been his lawyer's idea, though Vincent had refined it. Successful businessman 55 seeks educated woman to 35 for marriage. Must be comfortable with ranch life and business entertainment. Substantial financial security provided. Preference given to those without extensive family connections. That last line was crucial. Vincent had spent 30 years building walls around his past, and he didn't need some bride's relatives digging into histories better left buried. He'd received hundreds of responses, but one stood out with painful eloquence. Rose Morgan, 28, from Bakersfield. Her letter was brief but powerful. I understand isolation. I was raised in foster care after my mother died when I was 8. I have no family to complicate your life, no past to interfere with your future. I'm educated, scholarship to UCLA, and I know how to survive in harsh environments. I don't need your money, but I need a home. Perhaps we can give each other what we're missing. The photograph showed a young woman with dark hair and hazel eyes that seemed familiar in a way that made Vincent uncomfortable. But comfort had never been his priority. He needed someone presentable, controllable, and disposable if necessary. Rose Morgan seemed perfect. Now she was arriving, and Vincent felt an unusual nervousness. He'd negotiated with mob bosses, stared down federal investigators, and built an empire from a single-rigged poker game. But something about this mail-order bride arrangement unsettled him in ways he couldn't define. His driver, Antonio, met her at the airport while Vincent waited at the ranch. The Castellano Desert Crown Ranch was his real home, 50,000 acres of sage and cattle, far from the neon lights of Vegas. Here, under endless sky, a man could pretend his sins were just mirages. The car appeared on the private road, dust trailing like a confession. Vincent straightened his tie. Old habits from when appearance was all that stood between him and the gutter. Through the massive windows of the ranch house, he watched her emerge. Rose Morgan moved with a grace that spoke of hard-won dignity rather than inherited elegance. She wore a simple sundress that couldn't hide her natural beauty, the kind that would age well, important for a wife who needed to last. But it was her eyes that stopped Vincent cold when she entered. Hazel like his own, like his mother's. Mr. Castellano, her voice carried a slight tremor, nervousness, or something else. Vincent, please, we're to be married after all. She studied him with an intensity that seemed too personal for a first meeting. You're exactly as I pictured. From the advertisement, from my imagination, I've been thinking about this moment for years. Strange thing to say, but Vincent had heard stranger. In Vegas, everyone had an angle, even mail-order brides. The ranch house tour took an hour. Vincent showed her the 20 rooms, the pool, the stables, the office where he ran his empire when not in Vegas. Rose absorbed everything with careful attention, occasionally touching surfaces as if confirming they were real. You built all this yourself, she asked, standing before a wall of photographs showing the ranch's evolution. Every acre. Started with nothing but a rigged game and brass balls. And what did it cost you? Vincent looked at her sharply. Everything costs something. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. They had dinner on the terrace as the sun set over the desert. Vincent had ordered his chef to prepare something impressive, but not ostentatious. He needed to court her even if the outcome was predetermined. $500,000 for 6 months of marriage, then a quiet divorce. Long enough to satisfy his board's concerns about stability, not long enough for her to have any real claim. Tell me about your mother, Vincent said, pouring wine. Rose's hand stilled on her glass. Why, we should know each other's histories even if they're painful. She was a cocktail waitress, worked at a casino called the Golden Horseshoe. It's gone now. Vincent's blood chilled. The Golden Horseshoe. His first casino job 30 years ago before he'd learned to rig games in his favor. Before Maria. That must have been hard, he managed. She did her best, told me my father was dead killed in a car accident before I was born. I believed her until I was 16. What happened when you were 16? I found documents. Birth certificate, some letters. Learned my father wasn't dead, just gone. He'd abandoned us when she got pregnant. Vincent set down his wine carefully. That must have been painful. Painful, Rose laughed bitter as desert wind. It was liberating. I stopped waiting for a ghost and started hating a real man. Do you still hate him? Rose looked directly at him and Vincent saw something shift in her eyes, a mask sliding into place or off. He couldn't tell which. I'm here to marry you, Vincent. My past is dead. Let's focus on our future. But the past, Vincent knew from experience, never stayed buried in the desert. It always surfaced, usually at the worst possible moment. That night alone in his master suite, Vincent opened a safe he hadn't touched in 20 years. Inside, among other documents best forgotten, was a photograph. Maria Moretti, young and beautiful in her Golden Horseshoe uniform, holding a baby. He'd taken the picture himself in a moment of weakness before he'd walked away from both of them. Maria had wanted marriage respectability, things Vincent couldn't give when he was clawing his way up from nothing. She'd named the baby Rose, she'd told him, after her grandmother. Vincent had left $5,000 and disappeared into the night, choosing ambition over amour. He studied the baby's face in the photograph, then pulled up Rose Morgan's picture on his phone. 20 years was a long time. People changed. Maria had been Italian, dark-haired and hazel-eyed like him. It could be coincidence. But Vincent Castellano hadn't built an empire on believing in coincidence. The next morning, he had Antonio run a background check on Rose Morgan. The results were frustratingly clean. Too clean. Foster care records from age 8, stellar academic performance, a few years working in Los Angeles before answering his ad. But before age 8, nothing. As if Rose Morgan had been born at 8 years old, fully formed from tragedy. Is there a problem? Rose asked, finding him in his office, studying her files. Just due diligence. I've been burned before by women with hidden agendas. And what's my hidden agenda? I don't know yet. Rose moved closer, close enough that Vincent could smell her perfume. Jasmine and something else familiar. Maria had worn jasmine. Maybe I'm exactly what I appear to be, a woman looking for security with a man who can provide it. Nobody is exactly what they appear to be, including you, especially me. They stood facing each other, predator and prey, though Vincent wasn't sure which was which. When do you want to have the wedding? Rose asked. This weekend. Simple ceremony, a few business associates as witnesses. No family. I don't have family. Neither do I, Rose said, and something in her voice made it sound like an accusation. The wedding preparations proceeded with the efficiency of a business merger. Vincent had his lawyers draft an ironclad prenup that Rose signed without reading an act of trust or indifference that puzzled him. She moved into the ranch's master suite with a single suitcase, taking up so little space, it was as if she was prepared to disappear at any moment. But it was the small things that unsettled Vincent. The way she hummed while cooking, the same melody Maria had hummed, the way she automatically knew his coffee preference. Black with a single sugar cube, a combination he'd developed with Maria during their brief affair. The way she looked at him sometimes with a mixture of longing and rage that spoke of history deeper than a week's acquaintance. 3 days before the wedding, Vincent's world tilted off its axis. Rose was swimming in the pool when Antonio approached Vincent with an envelope marked urgent, personal. Inside was a death certificate from 20 years ago. Maria Moretti died of cancer, survived by one daughter, Rose Moretti, father unknown. Vincent's hands shook as he read, Rose Moretti, not Morgan. His daughter was supposed to be in California, placed with a good family according to the private investigator he'd hired and quickly fired 20 years ago. He'd told himself she was better off without him, that money in a trust fund was better than a father who'd chosen cards over family. He looked out at the pool where Rose floated on her back, dark hair spreading like an accusation in the water. his daughter, his bride, his damnation. The smart move was to cancel everything, send her away with money and silence. But Vincent had to know. Did she know? Was this elaborate revenge or cosmic coincidence? That evening he tested her. "I've been thinking about children," he said over dinner. Rose's fork paused midway to her mouth. Children. An heir. Someone to leave all this to. He gestured at the ranch, the implied empire beyond. "What do you think?" "I think children need love, not just money." "I could learn to love a child." "Could you, or would you abandon them when they became inconvenient?" The words cut deep, but Vincent kept his expression neutral. "I'm not the abandoning type. Everyone's the abandoning type given the right circumstances. My father taught me that." "Tell me about him." "I told you he's dead to me." "But not actually dead." Rose set down her fork. "Why this sudden interest in my father?" "We're getting married in 3 days. I should know if there's someone who might object." "The only person who might object is me, and I'm still here." "Why are you here, Rose?" She looked at him with those hazel eyes, his mother's eyes, Maria's eyes, his eyes. And Vincent saw the truth laid bare for a moment. "I'm here because I deserve to be." The wedding day dawned clear and brutal, desert sun scorching away shadows and pretense. Vincent stood at the altar in his private chapel, watching Rose walk toward him in a simple white dress that made her look heartbreakingly young. The few guests, business associates who needed to see Vincent settled and stable, whispered appreciatively. Father Miguel, who'd been performing discreet ceremonies for Vincent's associates for 30 years, began the service. Vincent barely heard the words, focused entirely on Rose's face, searching for signs of his features, Maria's features, truth or lies. "If anyone has reason why these two should not be joined, speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence. Juan. The desert held its breath. "Do you, Vincent Castellano, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Vincent looked at Rose, his daughter, his bride, his punishment, or his redemption. He still didn't know which. "I do." "Do you, Rose Morgan, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Rose smiled, and in that smile Vincent saw Maria's sweetness in his own sharp edges. "I've been waiting my whole life for this moment." "I do." They kissed, brief and chaste, and Vincent tasted jasmine and accusation. The reception was mercifully short. Business associates made their required appearances, confirmed Vincent's stability, and departed for Vegas. By sunset, Vincent and Rose were alone in the ranch house, married, trapped, circling each other like wary animals. "We should talk," Vincent said, pouring whiskey with hands that wanted to shake. "About what? Our honeymoon, our future, our children." That last word carried venom. "About the truth." "Which truth, yours or mine?" "They're the same truth, aren't they?" "Rose Moretti." Rose went very still. Then she smiled, cold as winter in the desert. "Hello, Dad. It's been 20 years. Did you miss me?" The whiskey glass slipped from Vincent's hand, shattering it on the marble floor, like the last of his delusions. "You knew. This whole time you knew. I've known since I was 16. Found Mom's letters, the ones you never answered. Found the birth certificate with your name scratched out, but still visible. Found the $5,000 you left like I was a bad poker hand you were folding." "Rose? You don't get to say my name like you care. You had 20 years to care." Vincent sank into a chair, the weight of his sins finally finding him. "Your mother? Maria, I was nobody then. A card cheat trying to go legitimate. I couldn't give you the life you deserved. So you gave us nothing instead. I set up a trust fund, which mysteriously disappeared when Mom got sick. Cancer treatment is expensive. Dying poor is worse. I didn't know she was sick, because you never looked, never checked, never cared." Well, Rose paced the room like a caged predator, 20 years of rage finally unleashed. "Do you know what I told myself growing up? That you were dead, then that you were evil, then that you were just weak. But the truth is worse. You were indifferent. We were nothing to you." "That's not true." "Then why abandon us?" Vincent looked at his daughter, his wife, his accuser. "Because I was building an empire. Because I thought money could replace love. Because I was a coward who chose cards over family. And now I'm a rich coward with an empty empire." "Perfect. Then you won't mind sharing it. Vincent's eyes narrowed. Is that what this is about, money? It's about justice. You owe me 20 years of birthdays, Christmases, father-daughter dances, college tuition, wedding walks down the aisle. You owe me a father. So you married me. Your own father. Legally, you're not my father. The birth certificate says father unknown. We're not breaking any laws. But morally, Rose laughed. You want to discuss morality. You who built your fortune on rigged games and broken promises. They stood facing each other across the shattered glass, two people bound by blood and bitter contracts. The days following their wedding were a careful dance of revelation and revulsion. They maintained separate bedrooms, obviously the marriage unconsummated and unconsummatable. But they were legally bound, and Rose made it clear she intended to claim her inheritance one way or another. What exactly do you want? Vincent asked one morning as they sat at opposite ends of the breakfast table. Everything you denied me. The Castellano named the fortune the empire. I want to be acknowledged as your daughter and heir. That would require admitting our marriage is fraudulent. Or we maintain the fiction until you die and I inherit as your widow, Dupe. I'm not planning on dying soon. Plans change. Your health isn't what it used to be. The heart medication you hide in your office drawer tells an interesting story. Vincent's blood chilled. She'd been through his private things, knew his vulnerabilities. If you're threatening me, I'm not a killer, Vincent. I'm not you. I never killed anyone. You killed my mother, slowly through poverty and abandonment. You killed the father I should have had. You killed the life we could have lived. So this is revenge. This is justice. But as days turned to weeks, something unexpected happened. Living together, even in their twisted arrangement, revealed truths neither had anticipated. Vincent watched Rose manage the ranch staff with natural authority, his own leadership style reflected in her decisive manner. She had his head for numbers, reorganizing the ranch's books to save thousands monthly. She had his instinct for reading people, knowing which employees were trustworthy and which were skimming. Rose in turn saw glimpses of the man Vincent might have been. The way he gentled spooked horses with patient whispers. The way he secretly paid for his workers' children's medical bills. The way he stood on the terrace each sunset looking west toward California with regret etched in every line of his face. You looked for us, Rose said one evening, finding a hidden file in his office. Private investigator reports from over the years tracking Maria and Rose's movements until Maria's death. I kept tabs, made sure you were safe, but never reached out. I thought you were better off without me. I wasn't. I was angry and alone and desperate for any connection to who I was. And now you know, you're a Castellano. Is it what you hoped? Rose looked at him, her father, her husband in name only, her genetic mirror. I don't know what I hoped anymore. The crisis came when Vincent's lawyer, Harold Brennan, arrived with urgent business. One of Vincent's rivals, Tommy Romano, was challenging the legitimacy of several casino licenses, claiming Vincent was unstable and his recent marriage was fraudulent. He has investigators digging into Rose's background, Harold warned. If they find out she's your daughter, they won't, Vincent said firmly. Vincent, this could destroy everything. The Gaming Commission has a morality clause. Incestuous marriage, even unknowing, would cost you your licenses. After Harold left, Vincent found Rose in the stables, brushing a horse with violent strokes. We need to end this, he said. The marriage, the charade. I'll acknowledge you as my daughter, give you your rightful inheritance. But we need to divorce immediately and create a story that we discovered the truth after marriage. And if I refuse, then we both lose everything when Romano exposes us. Rose turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. Do you know what the worst part is? Not the abandonment, not the poverty, not even mom dying alone. It's that despite everything, part of me still wanted you to be my father. To choose me, to love me. Rose, I've spent weeks living with you and you're exactly who I feared you'd be. Calculating, cold, always looking for the angle. But you're also more. You're lonely and guilty and capable of kindness when you think no one's watching. You're human, and that makes it worse because I can't just hate you. I'm sorry. For which part, abandoning me, marrying me, or being sorry that you got caught? All of it, everything. Every choice that led us here. They stood in the stable surrounded by the smell of hay and horses, two people destroyed by choices made 20 years ago. I'll sign the divorce papers, Rose said finally, but I want the truth public. I want to be acknowledged as Rose Castellano, your daughter and heir. The scandal will pass. The truth will set us free, even if it destroys us first. The next morning, Vincent called a press conference. Standing beside Rose, he confessed everything. The abandonment 20 years ago, the marriage entered unknowingly, the discovery of their relationship. He took full responsibility, painting Rose as an innocent victim of his past sins. The scandal was immediate and brutal. The Gaming Commission suspended his licenses pending investigation. The ranch staff whispered and stared. Business associates distanced themselves. Tommy Romano crowed about vindication, then quietly withdrew his challenges, even he finding the situation too sordid to exploit. But in the wreckage, something unexpected grew. Free from the lie of marriage, Vincent and Rose began to build something else. Not quite a father-daughter relationship, too much damage for that, but a tentative understanding. I can teach you the business, Vincent offered one evening as they reviewed the catastrophic quarterly reports. The casino business you just lost. I'll get it back, I always do. And when I do, it'll be yours eventually. I don't want your empire, Vincent. Then what do you want? Rose considered. I want to know my history, my grandparents, your family, where I come from. I want to understand why you are who you are, which might help me understand who I am. So Vincent began to tell her stories about his Italian immigrant parents, his grandmother's recipes, his father's gambling addiction that sparked Vincent's own complicated relationship with cards. He showed her photo albums hidden in the safe, introduced her to cousins she never knew existed, taught her the Castellano family card tricks that had been passed down for generations. In return, Rose told him about Maria's final years, about growing up in foster care, about the anger that had driven her to this elaborate revenge that felt hollow now. She loved you until the end, Rose said one night. Even dying, even abandoned, she loved you. I didn't deserve it. No, but love isn't about deserving. 6 months after the scandal broke, Vincent's lawyers managed to restore his gaming licenses with hefty fines and strict oversight. The empire survived, diminished but intact. Rose had been legally recognized as his daughter and heir, the marriage annulled as never valid. They stood together on the ranch's highest hill, watching the sun set over the desert that had witnessed their strange journey. I'm leaving, Rose announced, where East Harvard Business School accepted to meet Cain. I want to learn to run empires, but my own way, not through rigged games and broken hearts. I could teach you. You have. You've taught me what to do and what not to do. That's enough. Will you come back? When you're dying, I'll come back to close your eyes and take your name forward, cleaned of its sins. That could be years. Or days, your heart, remember. Vincent touched his chest, where the defective organ beat its irregular rhythm. I remember. Take care of yourself, Vincent. I'm not ready to forgive you, but I'm not ready to lose you either. Is that love? It's what we have. Maybe that's enough. Rose left the next morning, driving away in a car Vincent had bought her. Not a gift she'd insisted, but an advance on her inheritance. Vincent watched until the dust settled, then returned to his empty empire. But it wasn't quite empty anymore. Rose's presence lingered in reorganized spreadsheets, in the horse she'd gentled, in the photo of Maria he now kept on his desk. She'd given him something he hadn't known he'd needed: consequences. Not the clean consequences of business deals gone bad, but the messy, painful consequences of human choices. Vincent lived another 10 years, long enough to watch Rose graduate from Harvard, start her own legitimate business empire, marry a good man who knew her whole strange history and loved her anyway. He walked her down the aisle at her real wedding, the one where she wasn't marrying her father, but a software engineer named David who made her laugh. Any regrets? She asked him at the reception. Every day, but also gratitude. For what? For your revenge. It gave me the chance to know you, even if I didn't deserve it. We rarely get what we deserve, Vincent. Sometimes that's a curse. Sometimes it's a gift. When Vincent died, Rose was there as promised. She held his hand as his broken heart finally stopped, whispered that she forgave him, that Maria would have forgiven him, that love was stronger than abandonment, even if it took 20 years to prove it. She inherited everything and transformed it. The casinos became models of fair gaming. The ranch became a sanctuary for children aging out of foster care. The Castellano name, once synonymous with corruption, became known for philanthropy. But Rose kept one thing exactly as Vincent had left it: the chapel where they'd been married in the strangest ceremony Nevada had ever seen. Not as a monument to their bizarre story, but as a reminder that sometimes the most twisted paths lead to redemption, that justice and mercy can be the same thing, and that love is complicated enough to survive even the worst betrayals. In her memoir published years later, Rose wrote, "I married my father to destroy him and discovered that destruction and creation are sometimes the same process. We broke each other apart and rebuilt something better from the pieces. It's not a love story exactly, but it's our story, and that's enough." The ranch still stands, the chapel, still hosts weddings, and sometimes when the desert light is just right, visitors swear they can see two figures on the highest hill. A father and daughter finally at peace, watching the sun set on an empire built from rigged games but redeemed by an even stranger gamble. The bet that love could survive, revelation that family could be salvaged from fraud, and that sometimes the house loses to something greater than cards or cash or even blood itself.